Hi, I'm Hannah Durden and you're listening to the Outdoors Group podcast. This podcast is a call to arms to get children and young people outside again. It's your one-stop shop for all things outdoor, child, young person and education related. Thanks for tuning in. I'm really happy to be sat with our amazing welfare officers once again, Pete Shepherd and Rowan Pring, for this, our first podcast of 2023. They've kindly spared some time in their busy schedules to sit down and chat to me about wellbeing and mental health in the winter months. This time of year can be really challenging for a lot of people. A combination of that kind of anticlimax after Christmas, the long dark days and a pressure to embark on a new you regime within New Year's. We want to break this down and try to think about these elements and how we can support ourselves and each other in response to these. So thanks for joining me today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It's good to be here.
Good to be back. So first up, top tips for people who might be feeling emotionally drained after Christmas. Obviously, it can be a hard time, whether that's if someone's had first Christmas after a loss or overstimulation, or some people don't get on with their family. So what would you kind of say to those people feeling a bit exhausted from it? Don't know who wants to start.
I just have what I've written on my notes is self-care, 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 because I just think that's so important, particularly at a time when there's been many months of build-up of thinking of others and, other people in other countries who don't have what we might have, or thinking of others in terms of buying gifts and that kind of thing. Obviously, that is wonderful, and I'm not, demoting the importance of that. But I think we can lose our own self-care routines in that and not always think about ourselves alongside all of that thoughtfulness for others. So particularly if Christmas has been draining, I think it's just really refocusing on what you need and just giving permission to kind of slow down, regroup, focus on your own cup. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think as well, just allowing conflicting emotions to coexist, I think, is really important. If you feel guilty that you felt you didn't really enjoy Christmas because you don't get on with your family, or you find a particular family member tricky, it doesn't mean you don't love them. You just maybe find the whole thing stressful. So it's allowing, stress and love to coexist, or allowing guilt and love to coexist, and not beating yourself up for those potentially conflicting emotions.
Yeah. Awesome, that sounds really helpful. Pete, would you add anything to that?
Well, I think in many ways, Ro got it spot on.
Nail on the head.
It's self-care. It's that understanding of self, recognising the space we inhabit, where we are, emotionally, physically, mentally, and be kind to self. I think we've come through Christmas where there's so many expectations, so much busyness and activity. To come through that, it's really important that we really do attend to self-care, make self-care a major priority and responsibility to embracing the new year. But with self-care, recognising that that's not the same as being selfish. And often people will struggle by thinking, I mustn't begin the year thinking of self, I must think of others. But self-care is very much about attending to those areas of our lives where we do need to really give time and preference to supporting.
There's lots of analogies for it, isn't it? Like the whole put your own air mask on before you put the kids on the plane.
That's right,
You can't fill from an empty cup. I guess there's a reason why they're common sayings.
Yes.
Lots of truth in them.
Yeah. I think there's also something here about recognising in the winter months with poor light, there are people who are on the sad spectrum. Seasonal affective disorder, whereby they are somewhere on that spectrum, and they are very impacted as well by loss of light, natural light.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult for people going back to work in January, where they come to work in the dark, coming home in the dark, and they're not really feeling as though they're engaging in life outside of artificial light. And that's something, again, that we just need to take into account into our self-care.
Yeah. So talking of the new year, often, as we know, it comes with an expectation of kind of resolutions, abstaining from our vices, and this kind of pressure to improve ourselves, which at a time of year when we're often quite vulnerable is kind of hard to manage and to address. So what are your guys' thoughts about a healthier way to approach the New Year's?
Do you want to go first, Pete?
Yeah. Whenever I think of this, I think of the gyms that do a lot of their publicity around join us now work off the Christmas calories that you've put on. Be the new you that you always hope to be. And that really plays on that sense of a new year, as though we need to do something. We need to change something, we need to be something. And fueling that with a lot of expectations which often generated from our internal world, which in a sense converge with those external expectations that we sense. And I guess when we're thinking about new beginnings and a new year, I guess we first and foremost, we just need to recognise what are the drivers for that. Are the drivers external or even internal pressures that we place upon ourselves? Or are they drivers that actually work with our self-care? Because so many drivers work against our self-care rather than with our self-care. So our first port of call, I think, is really to kind of get a greater sense of actually what's going on for me now. I've got this push, this drive within me. Where's that coming from? What's that really saying to me? So self-care with our expectations is absolutely, I think, a real important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I'd add to that is respond to the seasons from the inside out, not the outside in. So what I mean by that is define and ground yourself in who you are and what you need, and respond to the seasons from this place.
Yeah.
So don't allow the seasons to define you. There's a lot of stereotypes, as you said, around new year, new you, do this. I think it's completely unrealistic to expect yourself to have a complete personality transplant just because we are now in the new year. And that pressure, just all it does is it pits us against ourselves and who we really are. A strategy that I use, I tend to do it in the summer. I might mention it in the last podcast. When there's that pressure to behave certain ways in the summer, go out, socialise more, stay up late, that kind of thing. I write out, I'm a person who, and then all the things that I like doing as me. And then at the bottom I write, I'm this person all year round. Yeah. And that can be helpful at this time of year as well. You know, I'm a person who maybe struggles to fit in, you know, vigorous exercise into my routine, or I'm a person who likes to go to bed at this time, or I'm a person who enjoys these kind of things, and apply that to this pressure of sudden change. Yeah. And in that, have a look at what you maybe want to change about your lifestyle rather than what you want to change about who you are in your grassroots. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the traditional New Year's resolutions, they're ultimately asking us to completely transform who we are at our core. Yeah. You know, if you are a more gentler person who likes gentle movement, and then you're suddenly, as you mentioned, joining the gym, is that realistic? Yeah. No, you're setting yourself up to fail. But can you embrace that gentleness in movement and find ways that you enjoy gently moving and gradually build that into your new schedule in the year?
Yeah, and I guess this kind of insinuation that we should all be making changes kind of almost seems to imply that we're not good enough as we are. Like by saying, "Oh, you should think of something to be better at." It's like, well, actually, what if we are happy with ourselves as we are? And then you think, it's interesting, isn't it, how it all plays in me. And I don't know where it's come from, the New Year's resolutions, because if you look at nature, it's not New Year out there yet, is it? Like the flowers haven't sprung yet, the birds are, everyone's still hibernating. So I don't know where it originates.
Advertising.
Do you think it's just consumerism?
It's part of that consumer push. A new year, we need to change. We see it, don't we, in terms of tired of your kitchen, tired of your three-piece suite, need a new carpet. Yeah. We're enticed to make a change. We're enticed to engage with the change. But what that does, that plays into our own vulnerability. Yeah. And we can be very vulnerable coming through Christmas and New Year. And that's a very dangerous place in terms of these very ploys which really play to our vulnerability. Yeah. And that's, as I say, that can be quite dangerous.
Quite dangerous, yeah. And if you think about the traditional calendar, Imbolc, isn't it? Which is beginning of February. That's the end of winter. Give yourself another month before we have to wake up.
But when you think about it, in terms of consumerism, when I was a kid, Boxing Day sales were massive.
Oh yes, and people
People
queue up
queue,
outside
they camp
Next at like
outside.
4 a.m.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's almost as though there's a shedding of the pre-Christmas planning,
Yeah.
things being sort of cheap. Right, I need. It feeds that within us, and that's not really helpful.
No. I always remember thinking, what on earth, like the day after Christmas, would you get up and go to the shops?
Yeah.
But I guess the advertising is very powerful for a lot of people, isn't it?
I think on that as well, that, you know, a particular day signifying something, and there's so much pressure on one day, you know, from this point, New Year's Day, I've got to change like that. And I think if you are inclined to set New Year's resolutions, allow yourself the full year. You know, don't go, right, it's the first, from now on, I've got to be like this.
Yeah.
It's saying, you know, within this year, I'm going to sustainably and gently and compassionately look at what I might want to change in my habits.
Yeah.
And I'll check in again in a year's time.
Like
and
people
see.
who do an intention board for the year and instead go, right, this board is everything that I'm kind of moving towards over the year rather than just...
Oh, that's lovely. I've not heard of that before.
Oh, we did it at a women's group last week, so they had lots of magazines, and the idea was that you got a bit of card or paper and you make a board of intentions for the year, so you kind of rip out things that appeal to you. So some people had lots of travel and food and stuff, and some people had just lots of outdoor time, but bits of words and stuff that they put on it for what they were looking for, which I thought was much nicer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything negative on there either. I don't remember seeing anyone who was like, eat less or, you know, lose weight or whatever. It was all positive stuff like travel and love and...
It's cool.
Yeah.
We touched on it a bit as well earlier, but there's also, at this time of year, a real disconnect with the natural rhythm of life. You mentioned earlier, Anna, about winter still being very much present at the moment, going into January. Spring, the potential of that we're seeing, but spring won't really take place until later in the year. And so we're in a period of time where we're in midwinter, things are slowing down, the rhythm has slowed down within creation. And yet at the same time, we're in an artificial reality where we're pushing ourselves to go in the other direction.
Yeah.
So we're living in an artificial light, in an artificial way of being, because we're not able to be out in the sun, so we've got our heating on, everything's artificial. And we're almost creating something which goes against the flow of that rhythm, that natural rhythm. In the spring, summer, we connect more with that natural rhythm. Yeah. But in the winter, we kind of almost ignore it to our peril.
I read somewhere, someone said that humans are the only species that don't adapt to what the world's doing outside.
Yeah.
Just kind of plough on through regardless.
We do. When you think about the working day, if you go back to previous generations in farming, the summer, you made hay while the sunlight was there.
Yeah.
Winter times, shorter working days. But we have an artificiality there in the winter, where artificial light means that we can keep working. Yeah. So often we are as busy in January as we are in July. Which again goes against that natural order of flow that we find, that rhythm within creation.
Yeah, absolutely. Which leads me on really to, as we've said, January and February are some of the darkest, coldest, wettest, windiest months. Even today we've had to cancel sessions across our business because the winds are too high for it to be safe. And we've talked last time in your guys' podcast about using the outdoors as part of our kind of mental health toolkit. But when the outdoors is so uninviting, what are your thoughts on how to access it then? Like, because I'd assume there's still benefit to being outside, but how do we, especially if you do have kind of SAD, and you are struggling with your kind of mental health, how do you look outside and think, I don't really want to go out? So,
I think the two key points that I wanted to talk about in this question is, one, is that how can you bring the sunshine in? And what I mean by that is what on a sunny day when you're, if you're feeling positive about that, how can you recreate that feeling inside? So it's really embracing indoor activities as much as possible and thinking, maybe on a sunny day I'd go out and do loads of stuff with friends. What can I do inside? Is that doing a bit more baking or drawing or creative projects or reading or, take up a new hobby and make a list of these things, like a little kind of menu of what you can do if it's really awful outside and you feel like I just can't today, and again, not succumbing to that pressure of, well, I should be outside no matter what. And yes, that's fantastic. And if you love going out and getting beaten by the wind and absolutely drenched in that supports your mental health, fantastic, within safety, do that.
Yeah.
But not everyone is wired that way, or not everyone can access that. And I think the second thing is, as I spoke about in the previous podcast about the study into images of nature that supported people's immune systems and saw increased levels of healing for hospital patients. There's a study that was done into images of nature that were categorised, and they gave 3 categories. So it's prospect, refuge, and hazard.
Okay.
Prospect is about seeing how far you can see, so the distance that you can see. Refuge is about when you're in shelter, so you could imagine you're a little owl in a hole in a tree. You can see out and you can see far. That's the prospect. That helps you feel safer and calmer because you can see really far, but you can see far from within a shelter. And then hazard is images of, say, lightning storms or torrential rain or hurricanes, that kind of thing. And it's prospect and refuge that are most supportive to our immune system and our mental health. And you can recreate that by, pulling a chair up to the window and watching the rain. You've got that shelter of your house, and you might be able to then counteract the, seeing hazardous weather by being in the shelter of your house. Or, take a picnic to a bird hide or something, so you've got that shelter from the wind and the rain in this kind of weather, but you can see far whilst you're doing it. So it's accessing nature in ways that support prospect and refuge, so you still feel sheltered and you can still see far, but you don't necessarily have to be in it and immersed in it if the weathers at the moment are too extreme.
That's a really good idea. Love the idea of picnic in a bird hide.
That's a lovely image. Lovely image. Yeah, I guess from where I'm coming from here with this this idea about engaging with the world over the kind of the winter period. Light is an issue. I think light is an issue for all of us. I think we tend to live more under artificial light in the winter months than we do during any other time of the year, and that has an impact upon us. So I guess it's about engaging and being open to spending time when it is light. That's problematic in the week when we're working. As I said before, we go to work in the dark often and come home in the dark. So think about the working day. Are there moments in the working day where I can actually find myself in sunlight or in outdoors light, however that light presents itself? Also making most of the weekends, those times when we're not working, engaging in away from the artificiality, back into the natural, back into the creative. I guess there's also something here about allowing ourselves to experience life through all our senses. And whilst it's not so pleasant in the winter months to be outside, absolutely, but there's something quite refreshing to feel the ground, the mud between our feet. There's something quite refreshing to feel the wind in our face, the rain on our face and our skin as well, in small amounts, of course. But there's something about reawakening our senses, because so much about the artificial takes away from our senses.
It's all about comfort, isn't it? Being
all
warm
about
and
comfort.
dry. And...
Absolutely, it's all about comfort, and we create an artificiality for ourselves which doesn't support our well-being at all. But being outside for short periods of time can really help us to engage in that natural rhythm, which then we benefit from coming back into the artificial, because we benefit from the warmth, we benefit from the light, we benefit from other aspects of being in the artificial. But we don't do it at the expense of actually being out, experiencing the wind, the rain, the cold. All of those things really stimulate kind of our brain, allow our brain architecture to do what it is always meant to do.
Yeah, I think as well, it's about reframing how we see our access to nature.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy to go from all to nothing, isn't it? In the summer, maybe some people are they're outside all the time, they're doing loads of stuff. In the winter, I can't do any of it. If you look at it, it's more of a scale, you know, and at the more restricted end of the scale, perhaps you go to the beach all wrapped up and warm, and in the summer maybe you love sea swimming. In the winter, if that feels inaccessible or unsafe, you take your shoes and socks off and you paddle, you know, or if it feels too inaccessible to go out for an hour's walk in the torrential rain because you know it's freezing cold, go into the garden and sit there for 10 minutes, get soaking wet in the rain, and then come in and get warm and dry. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, you know. If you can't go up on the moors for a 3-hour hike, you do nothing at all. It's finding the middle ground, or that first little step of how can I access a little bit of nature, even if it's not what it looks like in the summer.
I think with that as well, there's something to say about allowing nature to be our journal. So we journal at home, so many of us do journal, either through picture, through word, but outside we have a living journal. We have right from outside of our lounge window, this right in the distance, this massive tree. And I love this tree because I see this tree change every day. And I see the rhythm of that tree through winter time. It's very slow. And it reminds me that I can slow. I can slow down my thinking. I can slow down my breathing. I can slow down my activity. I can slow down just to regroup. Because this is what this tree is doing, is regrouping. I look forward with excitement to the spring when the buds start appearing, where there's the excitement of this bursting forth of new life. And that again excites me. It's a living journal. It reminds me that, the times in my life where I come alive again to ideas, come alive again to different stimulus. And then the flourishing of the summer, which is fantastic. It reminds me, that sense of flourishing, thriving, which is at the heart of human experience. And then it will go through another cycle of the autumn, where suddenly the leaves begin to change colour. It has a new reflection. It gives something else which is different from its flourishing. It's now a beautiful colour, and then the leaves will fall. And again, it's that living journaling that we do outside, which we can't do indoors, but we can definitely do it outdoors.
It's a lovely image.
Yeah, a really lovely image. And something easy to do, even if you live in a city, to find a tree that's on your way to work or, nearby to keep an eye on throughout the year. Yeah, really nice idea. So I guess on that kind of, moving on a little bit, what are your kind of top tricks and tips for staying emotionally well, or, you know, kind of on an even keel during this time of the year? We've obviously covered some bits already, but kind of other things that you guys might have to add.
I think what I loved about these questions is they really spoke to me as well, because I struggle with my mental health through the winter when it's darker. I think I definitely get sad alongside, you know, other mental health issues. And when I read this question, I thought, oh gosh, what tricky question to answer, what do I do? And I think I kind of allow, as much as possible, I try and use self-compassion to allow that tendency towards hibernation. You know, I really embrace, I get all the warm blankets out, I have my hot water bottle everywhere, comfort, you know, nice warming meals, more hot drinks, that physical comfort of just staying warm and snug and making sure those things are in place if I do go out, so when I come home they're ready and it's like a nice environment to come back to. I think that remembering our physiology and our physical responses to the weather and the seasons is really important. You know, with less light, you know, if we're perceiving less light, then our system may well be producing less melatonin, more melatonin, which means that we're more sleepy, more drowsy. You know, the cold makes our shoulders tense up, makes our muscles tense up. That tension is really exhausting. It can also replicate the symptoms of anxiety if you're kind of shivery and shuddery, and then the brain can think, you know, oh, I'm really anxious, or then it can trigger off anxious thoughts. So it's kind of dealing with that as well, really, of just really nurturing your body so that the the messages your body is sending to your brain is we're calm, we're safe, even though the weather outside is maybe a bit wild.
Yeah.
Because, as I said earlier, you know, wild weather can trigger off our fight-flight response. We go, what's the danger? What's that noise? You know, there's more sudden noises in the wind and things like that. So it's being compassionate towards our physiology and our physical responses, and looking at that as well as, you know, directly targeting our mental health.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that link between kind of body and brain, and how, that's really interesting that if you're cold, it can, you're saying, trigger your kind of anxious thoughts and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I think all of that, I think what Rose said is fantastic. I think that is so true. And one thing that Rose was alluding to is that we all have a different relationship to the winter months. And that's our normal. Yeah. And it's kind of recognising that normal. It's so easy to compare ourselves. We can compare ourselves with someone who's always outside. You know, our postman wears shorts throughout the year, and often compare myself to him. He's wearing shorts, why aren't I? I'm Rose. He seems to be okay. So it's kind of recognising what is our norm, what's our normal relationship to the outside. But I think there's also something here about taking risk, and about actually I can wander outside of my artificial into the natural, and I can't do that. I'm a great one of layering. So I go out and I've got umpteen layers on. I think my record is about 9 layers on top half.
That's quite impressive.
I'm a bit like the Michelin Man, but I'm a great one for not allowing myself an excuse for not to engage. And it's so easy because we want to be warm, we want to be comfortable, all the things that Rose said. But that's just risk taking. I can do this. But with risk taking, we need planning, and it's kind of planning what we're going to do. I'm the type of person who need a rough idea of what I'm going to be doing in order to do it. Yeah. I am spontaneous, but if I'm going to do something that's going to take a bit of a risk from me, I need to kind of plan for that. So, for example, if I've been indoors all week, I may be saying to myself on a Saturday morning, right, I'm going to do one thing outside. Not sure what that's going to be, but one thing outside, and it most probably will be walking on the beach. So that's something which kind of gives me not a pressure, but it gives me a direction. Yeah. A direction of travel, which can be really, really useful. So planning's really key. I think also it's very easy during the winter months to lock ourselves back into the artificial and to disengage from people. When I think about my neighbours, I talk to my neighbours in the spring and summer. I never talk to them in the winter.
Yeah, I thought that about my neighbours the other day, because we never talk in the winter. No, they're not outside as much. Because they're outside, not in the garden. You don't talk over the fence. You don't talk in the drive, because they're not out. And there's a real sense here about disconnection in terms of that relational disconnection. So it's about how can I support my nurture when I'm indoors, but how can I balance that with my connectivity outside with people relationally? How am I feeding my relational soul by that interaction between people? See people at work, absolutely, but it's so easy to disconnect from friends. And also to kind of really sit under the myth that, well, I am connected because I'm on social media, but recognising that social media will take us so far. Yeah. But it's not really relational. It's more about here I am. Yeah. It's not about that two-way engagement. So connecting with people, I think, is really key, and that takes effort. That takes intention. That takes planning. That takes a sense of, this is what I'm going to do, not as a sense of pressure, but as a sense of, this is a value, and I'm going to value it because I'm going to be with people. I think the last thing to say is really grounding everything back into self-care. Yeah, it's about being very kind to self, and not in any way setting ourselves up with such a regime of what we're going to do that we hit ourselves with it when we don't accomplish it. Yeah. And it's so easy to fall into that error of being, but we're just wanting to be very mindful of our self-care, aware of it, and very kind to self. Yeah. I was about to say, I think the takeaway from the whole podcast is just be kind to yourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Rose? Sorry.
I love that point you made about not comparing yourself to obviously it's not good to compare yourself to people in general, but specifically to people who are outdoors more. You know, it makes me think of my partner. He works outdoors. He socialises outdoors. His hobbies are outdoors. He is outdoors, you know, as much as he possibly can be the entire year round. So his resilience to the seasons is much higher than mine. You know, when I used to work in the forest school, it was higher because I was outdoors more. But now I'm predominantly, you know, indoor, outdoor. My resilience to the weathers are very different. So he might have more energy to go on a long walk out in the cold and the wet, but if I can't warm up when I get home, to me I can't do that. And if I compare myself to him and go, I should be able to, and we do this in the summer, it's not actually helpful. Or comparing ourselves to, you know, our spring and summer versions of ourselves, you know, where we're resilient to the warmth. Perhaps we can spend all day outside in the spring or the summer, even if it's raining but it's warm. But if you're someone who struggles to warm up or doesn't like getting really wet or gets very exhausted by trying to be resilient to extreme weathers, it's, as you said, just that self-compassion of allowing that and not pushing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today, guys. Is there anything else you thought would be useful that we haven't kind of covered, or do you think we've kind of covered most of our bits about well-being in the winter?
I think one thing I'd just like to add is that in this period of time over the winter when things shut down and to a certain extent and our natural rhythm changes, is to never fear to reach out for help and support. Often we may feel that things aren't quite right, things are not as they should be, and it's so easy to internalise and to put that down to, well, it's just the winter, just because it's darker days, shorter days, and it's so easy to kind of really kick into the long grass any sense of I need support. And I think that it's about that honest conversation with self. When we sense that we're in a place where support from elsewhere may be useful, and to not shut that down and to explore that. It's so easy to cut that out and to not explore that, but it's to be open about that and to say, actually, maybe I need to connect with a friend, and it may be just chat over a cup of coffee, chat over a pint, or it might be actually I'm recognising that my anxiety levels or my stress levels are at a place where I'm not liking. I may need to reach out for some more professional therapeutic support. But it's being open about that and having that conversation with self that says that's okay. That's not odd, that's not strange, that's not weakness, that's nothing other than an awareness that I just need some support. We do that, don't we, in terms of our physical health. So if we feel over the Christmas period we've ate too much, we may be mindful of our intake of food in the month of January. Many people do it over alcohol. They have sober Januaries. They just don't partake in alcohol. But do we do the same with our mental and emotional health? I'm not sure we do. I think we kind of either bury things or we kind of muddle on through thinking, well, this spring's coming. It'll be different then. It's about that honest conversation with self and that ability to say, you know what? I'm looking out after other aspects of life. I'm going to go get some support.
That's such an important point.
Absolutely. So finally, I can't ask my normal 3 questions to you guys as I did those last year. So we'll just do 2 little questions to finish us up, which is first, what are you reading or listening to right now?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm in a book. I'm reading a book.
You sound excited about your book, Pete.
There's not many books that I think about during the day and get quite excited that when I get home I can pick it up again. But this is one. I'm reading Max Hastings' The Abyss, his book on the Cuban Missile Crisis. Of how close we all came to not being here. And I'm finding it mesmerising. I cannot put the thing down. So I shall be picking it up again when I get home.
Well, that's a recommendation.
Well was reading from the history and the culture and if you're into the Cold War, it's your book.
How about you, Ro?
I had a sudden panic when you asked those, and I thought, I haven't prepared.
Oh, sorry.
And also I thought, I'm not reading anything at the moment.
Could just be a good tune that you're listening to. Any music that's particularly grabbing you at the moment?
Not particularly, and in that panic I thought, well, just that's how it is, because I'm just watching lots of kind of switch off TV and snuggling up on the sofa.
Go on,
and
what's
I
your
thought,
guilty pleasure right now?
I'm not going to, no. I won't go that far. But I thought,
I'm watching Glow Up with my teenager.
Oh, me too.
See, it's not so bad.
It's so, I love it. It's so creative.
So creative. Yeah, for a teenager that's getting into makeup, I thought this is quite a nice outlet to see makeup being used as a form of creative expression.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to poach yours. That's what I'm watching. I'm not reading or listening, but I'm watching Glow Up.
Excellent. And what is there anything you guys are looking forward to this year? Like anything they're thinking, oh, that'll be fun when that happens? Don't want to do any pressure, you see, so I was like, we won't do any goals or expectations or anything, but just if there's anything coming up this year that's going to be good.
In work or in personal life?
Anything, either, whatever.
I hadn't thought that far ahead, I don't think.
That's fine. Take it as it comes.
There probably is, but
yeah.
How about you, Pete?
Well, two things for me. One is both are personal really. But the first one is the smallest thing, and that's I'm looking to explore me, living in my own skin more, and to really be more attentive this year. My self-reflection. That's something which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
But the other big thing is my daughter's getting married.
Oh, that's exciting!
And I am the proudest dad.
Oh, that's really exciting!
Dad ever. So I'm very excited about that.
Awesome.
And I've been limited in my speech to 20 minutes, no longer. So I can't wait. Very excited. Very excited.
Excellent! Oh, brilliant! Well, that is a good one.
Are we allowed to ask you those questions? I know you said Glow Up, but are you listening to or reading anything?
Oh, I've just discovered, and I think this band's been going for ages, but I don't know if you say it Kaleo or Kaleo, Kaleo maybe. Anyway, I'm really enjoying their latest album. It's very nice. He's got a beautiful voice, and looking forward to. I don't know. My sister and her husband are turning 30, and they wanted to do a night out, and they've got a tiny baby who's 6 months, and I said, oh, do you need a babysitter? So I'm actually really excited about going to London to see them and babysit my nephew, so that'll be nice.
Lovely.
Lovely.
That's so lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time today, guys. I know you are a busy pair.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking us. It's an honour.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah,
thank you.
Amazing questions.
Oh,
very
thanks,
thought-provoking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys. A massive thank you to Ro and Pete for joining us for what was the first podcast of 2023, and what a lovely way to start the year. It was really gentle and encouraging conversation, and I really thank them for their time. I hope you guys enjoyed it just as much as I did, and we'd love to get more people listening to the Outdoors Group podcast this year, so please do like it, share it, rate it in your podcast players, and share it with your friends. We'd be really appreciative. We'll be back again in a fortnight, so we'll chat to you then. Thanks for listening.